Sometimes we bring calamity on ourselves, um, and we sometimes have no self-awareness of that calamity. And I want to use the story of Hagar and Sarah to illustrate this, because Hagar was Sarah's maid. And so Sarah must have thought very highly of Hagar, and there was no animosity in their relationship when she suggested to Abraham, let Hagar bear us a child, right? So here is Sarah, or Sarai at the time, suggesting this to Abraham, which he did. But then when Hagar got pregnant with Abraham's son, all of a sudden she felt like she was more than what she was. She felt like she was more than a slave girl, and she started to mistreat her mistress, Sarai. And then Sarai got upset and peeved, and she blamed Abraham, of course. Why wouldn't she take responsibility? She was the one who suggested it in the first place. But either way, she blamed Abraham, and then Sarah was like, no. I'm going to show you who is boss of this house. I am the mistress of this house, because Hagar developed this attitude that somehow she is more important than Sarah, because she has bore the master a son that Sarai could not. And so she started to treat Sarai badly. And so Sarah put her foot down and started mistreating her. And so when Hagar saw that Abram at the time was doing nothing about it, it's like she came back to her realization, like, oh, I am just a servant girl. This doesn't change anything just because I'm carrying the master's son or the master's child. And so what did Hagar did? Well, instead of apologizing to her mistress for her misconduct, she decided that she was gonna run. And that's what she did. And the Lord met her at this fall. The Lord was so gracious to Hagar, because when the angel of the Lord met her, the angel of the Lord says, "Where are you going?" And she says, "My mistress is treating me badly. It's treating me badly. So I'm running away." And in that moment, Hagar, as you can see, has no self-awareness, because she didn't even realize sorry, my kid just needed me for a second. So Hagar had no self-awareness to say that, what she did to her mistress, and her mistress in turn treated her badly because of her behavior towards Sarai. And the Lord, in his grace, you can see how the Lord just graciously responded to Hagar. And he, gave her some good news. I don't know if, I read it, I'm like, I don't know if I would call this good news about my son, but I don't know. He gave her news about her son and said to her to go back to your mistress and submit to her. Do what you're supposed to do, Hagar. Submit to your mistress and stop superseding her authority. And And so that's what she did, right? She went back. But what stood out to me in this story is that sometimes we can bring these calamities on ourselves. And I think as believers, it's good for us to go before the Lord with a honest heart and say, Lord, I have sinned against such and such a person. Like, forgive me of my sin. And then go to the person and say, I'm sorry. In this situation, that's not what you see. You see a woman that wronged her mistress and received what was due to her by her mistress. And in turn, instead of saying, I am sorry, I overstepped my boundaries with you, instead of saying that, can you forgive me? And, let's put it behind us and move forward. Instead, what she did, she ran away. And even when confronted, she didn't have maybe the self-awareness to say that maybe I deserve this, and a lot of the times we deserve what has come to us. And in those times, I believe that the Lord, in his grace, the Lord gives us so much grace than we deserve, doesn't he? In his grace, he just graciously responds to us, right? And so be careful of when things come into your life. It is so good to be a reflective Christian. And when things come into your life that causes turmoil, it is good to ask, why? How have I contributed to this? And, how am I going to move forward in it? So don't be the Hagar that brings calamity on herself and then cries out to the Lord without taking responsibility for her actions. I'm thankful for the Lord's grace. I'm sure everyone out there can relate to Hagar. We're humans. We all have this in us. Sarah did the same thing when she laughed at the Lord. And she did not own up to it. She actually lied. She lied to God. Can you imagine? She lied to God. So as humans, we are just so fallible. It's actually crazy. But, may we move towards a heart that is pure before the Lord and just wants to do what's right. And when we are shown how wrong we are in situation, may we humble ourselves before the Lord and before man and do the right thing. Okay?